Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to round 7 of the 2021 Halfords International Formula Alpha Championship. And this was a bit of a surprise for us, but we've managed to get the servers working thanks to Guy with his diagnostic wizardry. People are already having a crash in qualifying. We'll be joining that action in just a second. But yeah, luckily able to get everything turned around and working again. So in a few minutes, we'll get everything reset up and we'll join you for some qualifying action. As you see, everyone rushing out on track now. It's going to be a good one. See you in just a second. evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first part of the action here at Singapore. It is round 7 of the 2021 Halfords International Formula Alpha Championship for the second half of 2021. As I said, we are here in Singapore. We've finally got a few of the issues sorted, although not all of them. We'll go into that in a second. We've got about 5 minutes of quality remaining, and I am joined by Mr. Lewis Bowers as we come to the final stages of qualifying here.
So we're trying to make the best of the situation we've got. Unfortunately, due to some issues that are complicated maintenance now, we are fairly limited on what we've got. Alex Walker, the leaves attempting to fly just gained quite a lot of time himself. Sick most of the fastest driver on the track at the moment is Alex Smith with a 2:11.0. Very fast lap for him there.
As we see, I believe Paul Millman's had a bit of an incident with a wall there, but was able to carry on, so that's nice to see. Alex Smith currently got Andrew Whitehead in front of them. Looks like it's not a fast lap for Alex Smith, it is at his out lap. So we've got on board with Andrew Whitehead. As he is currently on a fast lap. Oh no, he is not. He is abandoning that lap there, allowing Alex Smith to get past so he can get ready for his fast lap, so we'll probably stay with him. You may be wondering why the weird camera angle. This is our only camera angle that we have that will be of any use for a commentary situation, because our other option is the TV camera, and I believe the TV cameras are currently on strike. The operator is currently not showing up to work because this is what we have for a TV camera. Yeah, it's not entirely useful, although it might be quite cool. See a lot of cars zooming past, but yeah, not working as we would want, so we'll make the best of it. As we see, Alex Smith on his fast lap has a little bit of traffic to contend with. That is the car currently in 7th position, and Mr. Alex Walker, he allows Alex Smith to get past as he heads down towards turn 2. 2 minutes of qualifying remaining now. It's currently Alex Smith with half a second to the car behind, which is a Will Harper.
It's quite a long track. Really focused now. It's really focused pointing in the right direction. Get all those exits right for quite a long time. Obviously, if we go 25-minute races, you're only going to see about 10 laps of racing. So there's a lot of opportunities for it to get horribly wrong. Not a lot of opportunities to fix those mistakes.
As we see Will Harper improving there to go Will Inglis rather improving to go third fastest with a 1:12.1 there. Oh, sorry, a 2:12.1. Just getting my maths a bit wrong there.
You see what some of the regulars that we normally see in these races are not present. The most notable omission is probably the part, and so that really opens up the spot at the top of the grid. So you could see a very good
Yes, losing a few drivers in the confusion of the will they won't they in terms of our racing tonight. Echoes Spa, kind of Spa from this year in F1, only with the difference is we're actually racing and you're not paying out the nose for it.
You don't know on boats.
Oh yes, we've seen Will Harper's currently in the pits. Yes, but we do need a cameraman, that's what we do need. Actually, we see there is a nice little battle in kind of the mid-pack forming here. We could see this chop and change a little bit, or doesn't look like that'll be the case for Barry Clayton, just a little bit too greedy with the throttle perhaps on exit there. Means that this lap probably won't be his fastest. He's currently 5th fastest, but yeah, only 10th separating these few drivers here as they all return to the pit, and that'll likely be the end of their qualifying session. But I'll tell you who did slip under the radar, George Battersby. Absolute flyer there, very nearly taking 2nd position from Will Harper. It wasn't to be, unfortunately. Only 5,000ths of a second separating those two drivers, or 7,000ths of a second. Again, my maths apparently is awful tonight. But yeah, he takes 3rd position from Will Inglis with that last lap at the very end of the session there. I think he did.
This is another chance for Battersby to
He goes purple.
There we go.
By nearly half a second.
Could this be the new pole lap right at the end of the session? So it's probably cursing at the fact he didn't get out for this last lap.
Oh, and it's all gone wrong as he enters Sector 2. What a shame for George Battersby there. I believe we still have a couple of cars on track, as we just see Alex Walker screaming past the car of George Battersby. It's facing the wrong direction at that corner there. I believe, yes, Alex is able to get this another lap in. He's currently yellow at the moment. It doesn't look like it's going to be electric for him, but he is currently the only man on track. Actually, is it? Yes, he is. He's the only man on track at the moment. Got that car in just in the nick of time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's often quite important. You see it in the line. They're fighting for those kind of cars in second in qualifying because that's where the track's going to be at its best. You see Alex out there completely in the zone, sort of at the pick of the line, getting to a nice little ball count there. You can see what it's like off the seat. Now down into the left sector. I believe again he hasn't improved there in the middle sector, but I think he's far off his personal best time, so this could be pulling a good third sector out. He might well be able to improve here. But let's see.
Locks up, unfortunately, at the very end. They all came undone. So those two drivers hoping to steal a few grid positions at the end of the session. It wasn't to be, unfortunately, and that rounds up our qualifying session then. So it is Alex Smith on pole, with Will Harper leading closely behind, and then very closely behind George Ruff-Battersby in third. We'll join you in just a moment for the first part of the racing action here in Singapore. And welcome back to the racing here in Silverstone. It is round 1, or race 1 of round 7 here in Singapore. We are lined up on the grid and ready to go. It's about 30 seconds until lights out. It's Alex Smith on pole, Will Harper in 2nd, George Brook-Batterby in 3rd, Will Inglis in 4th, Andrew Wyatt in 5th, Barry Clayton in 6th, Paul Miller in 7th, Alex Walker in 8th, Guy Swarbrick in 9th, and Rob Whitney in 10th. So we are ready to go. It'll be quite an interesting one, as you said, in qualifying. We're missing a couple of our usual drivers like Matt Daly and Colin Keneath. It could be anyone's game. We've got a mixture of the medium tyres and a couple of people on the hards actually as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops, because we didn't really get much of a glimpse in qualifying. But we are almost ready to go. It is 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away. The revs building. Everyone getting a fairly good launch there actually. Pretty much equal with each other, as we see Barry Clayton trying to find some slipstream for his car there. My voice already trying to go a little bit there. Will Harper getting a little bit of a lock-up. Everyone fairly clean into the first few corners there. It looks like a couple of people have had an incident further down the grid. I believe that, as we see Guy Swarbrick and Will Inglis actually pointing the one ray. I'll try that again in a second. Do you want to take over, Liz?
Yeah, those guys facing the wrong way there. Unfortunately, lap 1, turn 1 incidents, as we always tend to see. It looks as though there might be some incidents at turn 2 as well.
Yeah, George Brook-Batterby and, by the looks of it, Will Harper, unfortunately, those two doing very nicely in qualifying, and that's all come undone.
Yeah, unfortunately for these guys, it's a really tough street circuit. The cars, as we always tend to see, are quite skittish. It's quite difficult for these guys to make the most out of these cars.
Oh, as we see, very close there for Will Harper, locking the brakes. Collecting someone for his troubles as well. What a shame for those two drivers there. This race hasn't started the way that they would have wanted.
Absolutely not. Alex Walker there, unfortunately, just a bit of a passenger in that incident.
I believe the camera is just about holding on. We can carry on.
Yeah, Alex Walker, just an unfortunate passenger in that incident, just running a little bit wide onto the curves as he wasn't through there. He was just trying to rejoin the track, and that might sour a bit of the fun had by these guys.
Yeah, maybe for some damage. Not entirely sure, but I'll tell you who has done very nice like this. Alex Smith has had pretty much no competition after the first couple of corners because of all of the incidents going on. He's now built a 2-second gap on lap 1. He's doing very nicely indeed.
Yeah, the big thing for him now is we've still got 23 minutes left in this race. It's going to take him a long time to count that time down. He's just got to stay ahead, just got to keep it out of the wall. He showed some really good pace early on in qualifying. Just got to keep it ahead, keep it clean, and it looks as though Andrew White and Barry Clayton are going to be hunting him down as much as they can, eating into that gap if they can. Potentially looks like it's extending quite a long way, so it might be a bit difficult for these guys to close up that gap. We'll have to see how they get on as the race progresses. As we always see a few trains forming up. It looks as though there's a train behind John Baker, perhaps. We'll see kind of a bit of a slipstream tow, as it looks as though Guy Swarbrick has unfortunately left the server. It's a lot of understeer on turn in there for John Baker. Is he potentially back? Could take quite a lot of life out of those medium tyres that we run. You know, it's very keen if you're running the medium tyres. We're not sure how long they're going to last, and I don't think many of these drivers are either. So yeah, it could be a bit risky later on. It could come back to biting on the behind as we come to the later parts of the races. Steve Knight, who is one of our few hard runners, so he obviously has a little bit more time left to play with as he tries to stay as close as he can, and perhaps wait for an opportunity to move on John Baker. Yeah,
we could see an interesting strategy battle coming in between these two drivers here, as we see John Baker, the lesser experience of these two drivers there, that plays into Steve Knight's hand, and as you mentioned there, Lewis, he has a bit more tyre life to play with, so it could be a very nice race indeed for Steve Knight as he pushes his way up the grid, maybe thinking about a P4, P5 perhaps. But yeah, Alex Smith has just actually had a small... We keep getting lots of crash with environment notifications, and it is as these drivers are trying to push their cars to the limits, they brush up against the wall ever so slightly. And yeah, it takes a little bit out of your front wing, so it's something they're going to have to watch for. As we see a couple of drivers now in the pits, maybe a little bit of damage to contend with. But Steve Knight getting ever closer to John Baker here as we head down the long straight, and actually he's under a lot of pressure from George Brook-Batterby. George Brook-Batterby, a very fast driver indeed, didn't have the start to the race that he would have wanted. He's now side by side with Steve Knight as we head into the right-hander there, and under braking gets the move done very nicely indeed from George, and now he's thinking about a move on John Baker, I am sure.
So they'll be lighting up time screens as he has a tendency to do their purple first sector on that lap before he got caught up in that break-off battle there. He's going to really have to try and push this car now. He's got a few positions to make before he's back in a position that I'm sure he would be happy with. So he's going to really be driving the wheels off that car. But as I said, he's one of our medium tyre runners as well. Could that come back to bite him again as we get to the later stages of the race and the tyre wear starts to kick in more? Could some of our hard runners make up some of that gap on Brooke Battersby as he's taken so much of his life out so quickly?
We're seeing actually these drivers with a full race's worth of fuel on board are actually starting to post some very nice times indeed. Paul Milman at 2:14.2 there. That's a very good lap at this early stage, but George Brooke Battersby under braking, getting the move done on John Baker into turn 1. That was a beautiful move once again from George Brooke Battersby, something we've come to expect at this point in time, and now he's thinking about climbing his way back up towards the pointy end of the field after that start that he would rather forget, I am sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a bit of free air there, so it's a bit of time for him just to tuck in, get some laps down, and close that gap as we see Will Harper closing in on William Bliss, potentially looking for a move somewhere later on in the lap as they are coming into but they'll be looking to close up that gap, getting within a second there, just trying to maybe bounce over that curve that tiny little chassis there. Really not happy with
no, doesn't like these curbs at Silverstone at Singapore at all. It probably doesn't like some of the few curbs at Silverstone either, this Tarsus FA01, but it really is quite uncomfortable over some of the curbs. But he has caught up to Will Inglis quite well. John Baker forming a little bit of a train behind him as these two battle. Will Inglis thinking about a move under braking there, but that was too far back. That would have been too risky if these two keep battling. And as we see is the case now, Will Harper is quickly on the gearbox and probably going to think about a move in this tight left-hander here. He's going to try and hang it around the outside, get the better exit. If he gets the better exit, he'll get such a nice run down the straight, and it's exactly what he has done. He now goes up to 8th position and will now be trying to get a bit of a slipstream off John Baker.
Yeah, nice move there from Will Harper, just taking advantage of the John Baker's car just sitting in the middle of the road and unfortunately just hampering Will Inglis slightly. And
John Baker didn't look like he got a great exit out of the previous corner, and once again Will Harper capitalising on that, right on the gearbox of John's car in P7 now.
Again, just looking to capitalise. He does not want Will Inglis to do what he just do a kind of switch on the move. Oh, a little bit of contact with the wall there.
Yeah, that slowed John. Oh, and there is contact between the two cars there. A little bit of front wing damage for John, maybe. But luckily, both managed to keep it out of the walls there. And we're ready to start the next lap. John Baker under pressure from Will Inglis this time round. Will Harper's got some free air now where he can try and get some good laps in and try and catch up to George Brooke Battersby in front.
Yeah, you see so often with these cars, the momentum is so important. There are not many opportunities to build up speed if you sacrifice. Sort of swings along there, very defensive driving from John Baker there. We love to see it. Don't know how long it'll last, but we love to see that.
We managed to miss, unfortunately, George Brooke Battersby getting past Andrew Brammer in P6. I've said it so many times on the street, but that livery is just so cool. I love that livery. But Andrew Brammer is coming back up alongside him. George a bit more brave under braking, though. Keeps P6.
Yeah, so you can see the guys who make the most of these cars are really being as big as possible.
Contact between these two as Will Inglis tries to get past John Baker. John Baker tries to defend the move, maybe, and unfortunately that didn't quite go to plan for either driver. Will Inglis able to get the car out of the wall, but that closes the gap to the car behind, although it's not too bad, actually. Didn't lose out on too much there, so he should be able to catch back up again.
Yeah, with some substantial looking front wing damage there, but I'm sure he'll be keen to catch back up again. It's just a case of these cars banging. It's a very narrow circuit in places, and oftentimes you'll find that their braking zones are narrower parts of this track, so that's where you're going to tank.
Yeah, luckily in these Tarsus FA1s it seems to be the case that you can carry quite a lot of aero damage before you start to notice some serious deficiencies in performance.
You see Alex Smith up in P1. He's set 2 sectors here. Maybe on for a fastest lap of the race. It looks like he's probably going to be, as we see Barry Clayton there getting it slightly wrong.
And will he be giving the position back to Paul Miller? I don't think he will be, or I think he is Yeah, he's returning to the pits, unfortunately, for Barry, carrying a bit too much damage there. That promotes Paul Millman up into third. Paul is running very nicely in this race indeed, and has a fair gap to what will be George Brook-Battersby in P4. So if they can keep the nose clean, he could be on for a nice haul of points here.
Look up to, yeah, the top end of the grid. It looks as though these two, Alex Smith and Andrew Whitehead, are still catching up to the back of Alex Walker, and unfortunately, due to some earlier damage to the other bottom end of the grid, they will get to him at some point, I'm sure, and they will have to navigate him. I don't believe there are blue flags in this championship. If there are, it's still going to be quite difficult for him to get past. He'll close that gap again. But if Alex Smith can't get past, well, it's Alex Walker, yeah, sorry, Alex Walker down on the back end.
So I believe that is Alex Walker ahead of them as well. Usually we do. I've hit a button. I didn't mean to hit a button. Okay, crisis averted. Yes, we do. Drivers are also always very courteous in terms of blue flag conditions and getting out of the way for the drivers who are a lap ahead.
Good to see Guy Swaller there, although he's down a couple of laps, staying out on the track in front of Moses and Alex Walker, who's a long way from the lead, unfortunately. Some early lap incidents. Staying out on track and just kind of making the most of the time he's got.
Well, it looks like he may have a bit of a battle ahead with Barry Clayton. If Barry Clayton finishes repairing that damage to his car and gets back out on track, there will be some people to fight for points with.
Absolutely, and that's the whole.
See, John Baker's had a bit of an error into the corner entry there. That has allowed Will Inglis to catch up once again. They'll be hoping that this battle doesn't go the way that it went on the first time round.
Yeah, looking to. If I was Will Inglis, I'd be looking to be absolutely squeaky clean, just trying to make the pass as clinically as possible. Don't bother, lunging unless it's absolutely certain, because you do not want to tangle with these guys. It's just going to hurt you both in the long run. This looks as though it's our closest on-track battle at the moment, so we'll stick with this as Will Inglis seems to get a better run. Looks at the outside, John Baker staying in the middle of the road, defending it quite nicely.
Yeah, some nice defensive driving from John there. Although Will Inglis carrying so much more speed through the corner on that occasion. John very brave under braking there, but was it brave enough? Doesn't look like he was. He left the door open just a little bit too much, and Will saw that. And a very nice move from Will meant that he gets P7.
Yeah, opportunistic but clean. That's the kind of racing we like to see. We like to see these guys keep to the margins, but push the envelope a little bit.
And unfortunately, something's happened to Paul Millman's car by the looks of it, or maybe he had to disconnect for some reason. I was about to say we're going to have a battle between George Brook-Battersby and Paul Millman coming up in any moment soon, but it looks like that has come to a swift end, unfortunately.
Yeah, the question now, will George Brook-Battersby in that open space be able to catch up to the back of Andrew Whitehead? Andrew Whitehead, interestingly for you, is running a hard tyre, so he will be running slower. At least the tyre performance should denote the fact he runs a slower lap, but as we get to the later stages of the race, maybe we're past the halfway point now, maybe his tyres will start to come in a bit more and they'll start to sort of prove their own a bit. But at the moment, it's a 15-second or so gap from Brook-Battersby up to that second place. Will he decide to kind of save a little bit and stay happy with his third place, or will he try and hope for a higher spot on that podium?
Yes. Andrew Whitehead running very nicely on track at the moment, as is George Brook-Battersby. Both have set personal best first sectors as the fuel loads begin to get a little bit lighter. And I'm not sure if Alex has had a bit of an issue, because Andrew Whitehead has found a second all of a sudden. So these two have been spurred on a little bit maybe by the cars out in front and are seeing this challenge. As we see, Andrew Brammer's got it a little bit wrong. Looks to be that is at turn 13 for Andrew Brammer there. Just have to double check. And that has brought Will Inglis right in to play for P5.
Two of the best looking tracks, cars on track, I must say, two stunning liveries there. Blue and yellow asymmetrical livery of Will Inglis, and as we've said before, stunning Andrew Brammer livery there. See what they can do. Right up onto the back, a really good exit there. Will he have a look under the stadium section? Oh, he
thought about it. Yeah, he was a little bit careful, I think, in case the door was going to be closed. That wasn't the case, but yeah, Willingliss carrying a lot of speed through the corner that time round. And a little bit of oversteer on exit there as he heads round turn 22, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lots of
I
corners
should,
on this track.
yes, I should know Singapore more than I do, unfortunately. But yeah, a little bit of oversteer, which is not something we've seen too much of so far.
Absolutely not. We see a lot of understeer with these cars, especially at this track. We've seen a lot of understeer already. We see Stephen Knight here.
According to the timing screen, had a bit of an incident, but doesn't look to be too severe.
Looks as though he's doing all right as we jump back with this battle with Willingliss and Andrew Brammer. Willingliss, again, as I was saying earlier, the momentum is so important at this track. There is not a lot of time where you can make up that speed that you have, so you've got to make sure your corner exits are clean. If you're going to make a move, realistically want to try and make it on the way into a corner and compromise your opponent's exit as much as you can without obviously going a little bit too far and causing an incident. But you see, especially out of turn 21, the Mercedes making that long run all the way down to the first proper braking zone at turn 1, all based on your exit of the corner several kilometres back. You've got to really maximise your exit speed, as you see bouncing over the curve there. Very, very.
I believe Alex Smith has had an off, and that has allowed Andrew Whitehead to catch right up. Sorry to interrupt there. Saw a lot of collision warnings coming up on our system there. But yeah, all of a sudden a battle for the lead has been bestowed upon us as we head through turn 23 with these two. Then Andrew White trying to get as much slipstream as possible as we head into turn 1. A lot of time can be made here as we see Willingliss has got past Andrew Brammer as we head into sector 3 for these two drivers.
A good move there. Looks as though it was very clean. No contact coming up on our timing screen, so we'll jump back on this battle for the lead. They are 6/10 of a second away from each other, and that gap is closing all the time. So I think maybe Alex Smith's medium tyres are starting to lose a bit of life. Maybe he's pushing a little bit too hard to try and build that early race gap. And the hard tyres on Andrew Whitehead's car maybe now.
Oh dear.
Better, as that's Andrew Brammer who's had a bit of an off and parked it in a wall, unfortunately.
About to say he was facing the wrong way. I was looking at the road, the road markings.
Looks as though he's in his attempts to stick to the back of Willingliss after that move. He's unfortunately lost a lot of time there as we see these two battling for the lead coming into the second half of sector 2. And we look as though is that Brooke Battersby behind, or is
I believe that is Guy Swarbrick behind. Yes, it is. It's Guy Swarbrick. Lapped car there. Someone else having to enter the pits. Unfortunately, that is the car of Barry Clayton. Barry Clayton was running quite nice earlier on in the race. Shame to see hasn't quite gone to plan, but he can maybe focus his hopes on the reverse good race coming up in a short while.
That has in fact promoted Alex Warbeck into 10th place, the last qualifying heat aim position. As we see this battle getting closer and closer and closer, I think that may well be Alex Smith starting to lose a bit of tyre.
He could be carrying quite a bit of damage as well. I haven't just messed up the stream, have I? I thought I just played with something on the stream accidentally there. But yeah, he did have quite a heavy impact before we joined with him on board. And that did allow Andrew White to catch up. But yeah, as you say, maybe he's got to, as we get towards the latter stage of this race, he's having to push so hard that these mediums are starting to cry out a little bit.
As he comes out of this turn 21, it's very, very important part of the track there. He's now got to run all the way down to turn 1. Loads of understeer there as he goes through.
Oh dear, yeah, not carrying much speed through there at all. You see a little bit of lag, unfortunately, playing its hand, but on exit, Andrew Whitehead has been able to sweep past Alex Smith as we head into turn 1. Andrew Whitehead now leading the race.
Yeah, not even needing the braking zone there, just getting the move done on pure pace alone. As we see so often with these cars, all about your exit. Your exit speed is so important. Unfortunately, Alex Smith potentially, as you say, damage or tyres starting to play a part. And it just means that Andrew Whitehead on hard tyres, looking for less damage, has just managed to hold that momentum and get past all the way before turn 1. So a little shuffle on the podium there. Brooke Battersby has done well to cave maybe some of the gap to the cars in front, but unfortunately it doesn't look as though she's going to be fighting for a position on the podium. Unless anything goes horribly wrong, just commentators curse at somebody. But it looks as though...
Oh, it a distinct possibility.
It really is fairly settled. Is that maybe a bit of a battle between Frank Grammer and John Baker potentially later on in the race? There's about 6 seconds between them now. John Baker can string a few laps together, and
He has just set his best lap of the race according to our timing system.
yeah, so yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could throw a few laps together and close up that gap.
Like Smith maybe struggling with the car a little bit now, just got another collision there for him. He drops back off the gearbox of Andrew Whitehead a little bit now. So it really was a race of patience for Andrew Whitehead, it seems. Whacked those hard tyres on, and towards the end of the race has been able to scoot past Alex Smith. Unless anything goes wrong for him, as it looked like it tried to then. It all got a little bit untidy. Able to keep it pointing in the right direction though, which is the main thing. And someone else who was doing an amazing job and getting past a few cars was Will Inglis. He's just had a little minor scrape with a wall, but is able to carry on. He's currently about 11 seconds behind Will Harper. Will Harper started second, currently running fourth. A very nice recovery drive from him, actually, when you consider he was pretty much plumb last at the after the first couple of corners. So he's had a nice recovery to be fourth at the moment.
Yeah, so some really good recovery drives from these guys. Unfortunately, as we were, I'd say, expecting, but hoping to avoid a big incident on lap 1 with all these cars tightening together. But yeah, those guys pulling out some really good recovery drive, taking advantage of some of the incidents around them, and making the most of the opportunity they've got, and making some really good points for themselves in the championship. As we follow Andrew Whitehead here, just trying to keep it. I think if I was him, I'd just try and keep it between the 2 white lines. Just try and get the car around for this in the last 4 minutes or so.
Yes, I think he can afford to just kind of cruise it home now. Without too much worries. We see Alex Smith not setting any amazing sector times, although we say that, and we say Andrew can afford to cruise at home. He's only getting faster and faster as the fuel gets lighter. He's just set a personal best sector 1. We'll stay on board with him to see if he can improve throughout the rest of this lap as he gets a little bit of oversteer, a bit of a slide on. I'm sure he 10 points for drifting there. I think that was a lovely looking corner. It might not have been very fast, or might have not have felt very good from the cockpit, but it looked great.
Yeah, that was a bit of a squeal and hope moment. A lot of counter steering, a lot of playing with the just trying to keep that thing in a straight line. They seem to be very rear happy here. It's something we've not necessarily seen that often, of these cars being very, very rear happy. As he tries to get through the next long run down to the hairpin of 14, I believe it is. We'll see what's going on here with Barry Clayton having a bit of a battle, potentially trying to hack himself, or is he conceding? It looks as though they're having a bit of a tussle there down with Andrew Grammer.
Yeah, I believe he's just unlapping himself. He's a little bit further behind Guy Swarbrick, who's on the same lap as him at the moment. And then we have Alex Walker ahead, who's a couple laps ahead of him, running his own little race in 10th at the moment. So must be feeling quite lonesome at the moment. Down in 10th with no one else to really bother him at the moment, although it could be a worse race as he unfortunately gets it a little bit wrong as we join him. Bit of a commentator's curse there, I think. And the old kick of the throttle to get yourself pointing the right direction there. We will rejoin the action with Andrew Whitehead, our current race leader, coming on to the final couple of laps now.
Quite a nice little neat half pirouette. Actually did him a bit of a favour. Gets him out of the way of...
Guy Swarbrick had the incident.
Yeah, that's doing some normal half pirouettes with the assistance of the wall a little bit there.
Appears the clue is for us to not look at the car, and then they won't do a pirouette. The second we look at the car, they'll do a pirouette. So we've rejoined the action with Andrew Whitehead for the lead. Let's see what happens as we get towards the later stages of this race.
Because as we say it is, then he's getting very untidy there. He's not seemed to have got as far along the last couple of laps as he was. We saw him do a very nice bit of drifting there earlier. This could be the undoing of him, potentially. If he keeps getting that wrong and gets it even more wrong, he could end up in a runoff area very, very easily, or worse, in the wall.
Anything can happen in a couple of laps, as you say. And although those hard tyres will have the durability, it was certainly the case in a lot of the practice running that I had a look at, that the hard tyres really weren't coming up into temperature. They weren't behaving as the drivers wanted, especially the fronts. The fronts were pretty much remaining ice cold because there's pretty much no high-speed corners to speak of here. There's a lot of heavy braking zones, which will give you a little bit of temperature, but nothing aside from that, really. So the hard tyre maybe even at this stage in the race not quite in the happy zone.
Yeah, and such a long run between corners often. You see a lot of these guys running for quite a long time between heavy braking zones, and that will only serve to cool your tyres down and your brakes as well, as we see we've seen a lot of drivers in this race struggling on the brakes. So yeah, it's not an easy track for these guys to drive. It's not an easy track to pick the right tyres for. Could we potentially have seen a pit stop being used to potentially run these guys, maybe a medium to medium or a soft to medium or something like that, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. We often don't see pit stops for sort of strategy in these races, but perhaps that could be an option for these guys. At some point in the second race, we could see someone try and do an alternate strategy. Often it's the likes of George Battersby tries something different with strategy. So we could see something interesting there.
As we are now on the penultimate lap of this race, Andrew White is able to cross the line just in time to conclude the previous lap in order to make sure that we have 2 more laps of racing here for the first half of the action in Singapore. About 7 seconds gap between him and P2 now, so there really didn't go Alex Smith's way at the end, unfortunately. We've seen this so many times, especially in this year's running. Alex Smith can put in an absolute blinder in qualifying, occasionally bringing the challenge to Colin Knief, but unfortunately his race just hasn't quite worked out the way that he would have wanted.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's just a case of, as he goes very deep there, that's not where you want to be. It's just an unfortunate case of a bit of damage and a bit of tyre wear, as he again gets the armfuls of understeer. It feels horrible when you turn in, the car just does not want to do anything.
There's a perfect representation of it there. You're fully on steering lock at all times. He's definitely got some suspension damage there as well. You can see how much he's battling to keep the car in a straight line. Barry Clayton just set the fastest lap of the race at 2:12.5. A very nice lap from Barry there. Indeed. Is he running these soft tyres at this point? I believe he is. He is running the medium tyres at the moment. So that is a very impressive lap from Barry Clayton with the low fuel on board. But yeah, you can see armfuls of understeer, as you say, and a lot of suspension damage on Alex Smith's car. No wonder he was struggling to keep Andrew Whitehead behind.
Yeah, George Battersby is close within about 10 seconds of Alex Smith there. I don't think he's going to get a chance, unfortunately, for his sake. He's not going to get a chance in the charge against Alex Smith. But I'm sure if this race was 5 minutes longer, he would be right up the back of him very quickly. As we said earlier, it's a very long lap here at Singapore, so there's a lot of chance to make up a lot of time. But Alex Smith, fair play for nursing that car for the last half of the race with what is obviously some very substantial suspension damage, as we see. Andrew Whitehead.
Oh dear, Alex Smith locked up, ends up in the exit area of that corner there, and that'll promote George Battersby into P2. Will Harper will be taking P3 because Alex Smith has returned to the pits. That car may be just too much to deal with towards the end of the race, and that provided a little bit of a change up to the podium order all of a sudden there. George Battersby, as you mentioned, he was maybe fighting for a spot higher up on the podium, and his prayers have been answered. Though it's just not in the way that we would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Must be a commentator's curse again. Alex Smith there, having to fight with that car for so long, it is really frustrating. It's really tough to get your head around how to drive a car that's not steering in a straight line. And obviously he got something wrong, or it just the problem worsened, and he had to bring it into the pits there, and he cascades down the order, unfortunately, right here at the death. But yeah, George Battersby, as we see, Will Harper get it a bit wrong there.
Oh
as the weight
dear.
transfer changed over the car.
He needs to get back on track in time if he wants to secure this podium. Will Inglis is hunting him down, just set his fastest lap of the race. As he heads into turn 1 there, Will Harper gets out of the way just in the nick of time. But yeah, Will Harper will not wanting to make any mistakes like that, because he was pretty much P11, P12 at one point, now finds himself on the podium. About 6 seconds between him and Will Inglis, so we'll be trying to avoid mistakes as much as possible. As we see, Andrew Whitehead looks like he's just had a little bit of a mistake himself, as he heads into Sector 2 on his final lap. This final lap of the race there, as we see Alex Smith diving down the order, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Andrew Whitehead on the hard tyres, running a really sensible, really clean race, and just capitalising on the unfortunate mistakes there. George Battersby as well on the mediums. I believe he pitted earlier on in the race, perhaps. So that might not be the set of mediums he started on, as we see Rob Whitney making a bit of a move there to unlap himself from down the grid. I think this is Brooke Battersby fighting it back a little bit. As there's a bit of confusion going on here. Are these guys racing? Are they not? It'd be nice to see a little bit of on-track action, but I'm sure the courtesy comes in a little bit there as we see Andrew Whitehead coming towards the finish line now. Andrew Whitehead crossing the line to win the first
Not
race.
yet, he doesn't.
Oh, wrong line. Now he crosses the line to win the first race here at Singapore. A very well done race here for him. Very mature racing. Brooke Battersby.
Fastest lap of the race as well at the end.
Brilliant there. Brilliant performance there for himself. Didn't need to, but he did it anyway. George Brooke Battersby, again, running a very good recovery drive as he comes into the last two corners now. Here to take his second place. So many good recovery drives here today. But Andrew Whitehead making the most of it, taking home that first place as we see Brooke Battersby across the line now.
And someone to watch is Will Harper. Will Harper under a little bit of pressure from Will Inglis. Will he keep the nose clean in these final few corners? It could all come undone here. About 4 seconds separating these two drivers. Could soon find Will Inglis on the podium. Will he dive onto the curb just a little bit? Doesn't like he will. He's playing it very safe here. I know he does take a little bit of curb. And what? Has he run out of fuel? I don't know, but there's all of a sudden going to be quite the drag race towards the line. Will Inglis overtakes him, taking third position to round out the podium. Will Inglis takes home P3. Will Harper has to settle for P4 at the end there. I'm not quite sure what happened.
Yeah,
he just kind of stopped. Did he think that was the line? Was he going for a bit of a photo finish?
I'm not sure. It was a very strange end to the race there. We'll have to see if we can get hold of Will Harper and see what happens.
We will. I think we'll have a bit of a debrief after the end of this race and work out what quite went on there. Was he trying a little bit of a Renault 2008? A little bit of a crash gate at the very end of the race. I'm not sure that would have worked. But once again, we find about 4 seconds separating P5 and P6 this time. Will we see the same thing? I don't think we will. Andrew Brammer has a very nice race. Kept the nose clean, takes home P5. John Baker will be coming home P6 as well. We saw him involved in a few nice battles. He takes home P6. Steve Knight shortly behind, taking home P7. And then Paul Milner, who was running P3 at one point, having, by the looks of it, technical difficulties, unfortunately, eventually settled for 8th. So that concludes the racing for everyone on the lead lap there, and things certainly hotted up towards the end of the race there, and we're looking forward to seeing how this affects the reverse grid race, which is coming up in just a few moments. So we will see you then. furious clicking. The mic is live. Furious clicking. And welcome back to the action here at Singapore. It's race 2, the reverse grid race. After that exciting end to race 1, we are ready for some more action. We did have a little word with Will Harper, and it appears that we're just having a couple of issues on his end in terms of the mod and server and everything, and technical issues being technical issues, which unfortunately robbed him of a podium. But we are ready to go. The revs rise. There are 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away. Barry Clayton really got an awful launch, it must be said. Alex Smith quickly takes back P1. Alex Smith, having had such a good race at the start of race 1, is able to enjoy the top spot on the grid again. In fact, we have Will Harper in P3 again. No, the reverse grid is working. I'm just double checking. I believe the reverse grid is working. Good, always worth checking. But yeah, it's currently Alex Smith in the lead, Barry Clayton running second, and Will Harper running third. Everyone keeping the nose clean through turn 1 on this occasion. Unfortunately, that doesn't look like that was the case for Rob Whitney, maybe getting a bit of a lockable, having technical issues, but Lord Bradley sweeps past Will Harper under braking there, taking home P3, but it all goes wrong. Gets a little bit over exuberant on the throttle, maybe makes a little bit of contact with Will Harper, and it allows Andrew White to get past, and Will Inglis is now in the picture for P3.
Yeah, just a bit of oversteer.
And everyone, massive accident, sorry to butt in there. Everyone's kind of come together, as you mentioned, on one of those kind of narrow braking zones there. It's collected 4 cars all in one incident.
Yeah, looks like Alex Smith, Alex Walker, Bryce Walker,
Andrew Brower.
Getting tied up in an incident there, which seems after the race. But now he's going to have a bit of a fight on Alex Walker in front of him. He's going to probably try and make Alex White as possible. Now, though, it looks like he's not going to get the option to. Alex Walker
very nicely under braking there.
That gets that pass done and moves on to the next one.
Will Harper looks like he's had a little, not the best corner for Will Harper there. It's allowed Will Inglis to get past. Andrew White obviously getting past Will Harper, and tell you who has enjoyed all of those incidents. It is Barry Clayton. Didn't get the best launch, but finds himself leading the race once again.
Yeah, hopefully his race will go slightly better for him than Alex Smith's goes from the last race. That way we can definitely say what it's going to be a bit of an exciting end to the race.
See, Will Harper has unfortunately had a bit of an incident, and it looks like further down the grid as well we see Alex Walker and Guy Swarbrick have came together towards the end of the lap there. So the reverse grid race having the typical reverse grid start by the looks of things. You see Barry Clayton setting an absolute flyer on the previous lap there. 2 purple sectors in 1 lap with full fuel load. At the moment he is walking away from everyone else to the tune of a couple of seconds on that first lap. Everyone else getting tangled in instance means that they are quite far down in terms of lap time.
Yeah, so as with before, it looks as though this is going to be a bit of a strange race with some guys.
Race of attrition almost, yeah.
Yeah, making some recoveries. Some guys who aren't necessarily in the position they want to be given that first start into turn 1. A lot of guys driving into some open spaces. And George Brooks back to speed. George Brooks tries to make some places. He seems to have back up to 4, so he's had a very quick recovery from his spin on that one. And to make up some places, try and get back into those places where he found himself in the last race.
As we see Alex Smith and Paul Millman pretty much neck and neck into the heavy braking zone there. Alex Smith taking the inside line, Paul Millman thinking about defending it there, but very nice, fair racing between these two. Alex Smith takes home 7th position and is now thinking about taking home P6, I am sure, as he thinks about a move on to braking. Maybe, no, he's a bit too far back there. And on corner exit, he didn't get the best exit actually. Steve Knight able to build just a little bit of a gap on him this time round, but there's another hard braking zone coming up here. As we see, unfortunately, a couple more incidents going on further down the grid. Alex Smith able to catch up just a little bit to the gearbox of Steve Knight as we enter sector 3 of the lap, and pretty much echoing every move that Steve Knight makes.
looks as though he's going to be trying to stay as close as he can, maybe make a move.
Andrew Whitehead.
Oh, that's Andrew Whitehead in the wall. Will Inglis and George Battersby taking places there. Andrew Whitehead down to P4. So we're going to have to see a recovery drive from Andrew Whitehead. George Battersby's probably thinking like the stars after an incident early on in the race. He's back up into.
I believe that's just because he's rejoined the session there. That caused a little bit of a time glitch. It'll be solved in just a second. But we start to see the lap times tumble now. Barry Clayton's really enjoying the start to this race. Another purple sector for him on the previous lap. He is doing an immense job out in front at the moment. As we see, Steve Knight is losing positions to there. Alex Smith is finding himself in P6 already, so he's doing a nice job of a recovery drive at the moment. Will Harper is in a fairly similar position to what he was at the start of the previous race, so we can echo what he was doing without the technical issues towards the end. He could still be on for a very nice result indeed.
So a little bit of a tidbit from the time screens. The three drivers behind Barry Clayton, so Will Inglis, George Battersby and Andrew Whitehead, all on the half times. Barry Clayton is not. So Barry Clayton, who is eking out the temps into seconds now, he's 7.6 seconds in the lead. He's going to have a very difficult end to this race. Forecasting a very difficult end to the race for him, as the time will creep up now. He's basically got to just learn much of his time now.
See John Baker under a lot of pressure at the moment. Paul Millman thinking about a move up the inside under braking there. It was going to be a brave one. It was would have been quite risky. Fortunately, the drivers kept the nose clean there. But we see Paul Millman thinking about another move again, perhaps. The door was left open a little bit, but he was just a little bit too far back.
John Baker, I must say, takes some very, very good defensive lines.
He is.
Incredibly difficult for these cars to get around him. Taking that middle line of the track on braking, taking it very slowly, just compromising and not giving him a chance to get past. Makes it incredibly difficult, especially when you're so close that you can't put that switch back or straight. You have to try and do something with the braking.
See, squeeze each other as much as they dare there.
Just about avoiding contact as he runs a little bit too deep and makes contact with the wall as they go under the bridge there. Unfortunately, it looks as though that has his vehement defence of that position there has gone out the window. Now up to Alex Walker's hunt. He's got about 12 seconds left in that battle.
You see Andrew Whitehead recovering from that incident earlier. He's caught up very nicely indeed to George Battersby in front as they head through turn 2, or up towards turn 2 rather.
Yeah, these hard runners are going to really struggle with these tyres early on in this race. We see George Battersby taking a less than ideal ride.
They should be somewhat up to pressure now, or rather up to temperature now, but they still won't be treating the drivers as nicely as the mediums at this point. But yeah, that will be fascinating to watch later on, as you mentioned. All of the hard runners at the pointy end of the grid. We see Andrew Whitehead getting a little bit of overstay. We saw it from his car in the previous race, so it could be a setup thing. This is, of course, an open setup championship. Colin Keefe, who unfortunately isn't racing with us at the moment, usually provides a base setup that is very good for all of the drivers, but you are free to tweak that as much as you like, or run with your own if you feel that is best.
Yeah, we've seen different setups
for John Baker. These two have come together, unfortunately, which rather put a damper on their recovery drives there.
Yeah, so we see these guys running. Unfortunately, we can't show you our time screens. Their top speed there in the speed traps is so different. That obviously shows the different setups these guys are running. So they are making the most of that, trying to tune these cars as much as they can to give them their ideal performance characteristics.
See a bit of the concertina effect coming into play there between Will and John. But yeah, as you mentioned, that is an interesting bit of track limit for Will Harper there. We'll pretend we didn't see that. Actually, it's only about half a second separating George Battersby and Will Inglis as we head into the final part of the lap. And George Battersby able to close in nicely on Will under braking there. Barry Clayton over 10 seconds gap between these two, and that gap will only extend if Will is trying to battle to keep the second spot on the podium.
Yeah, as you see, we were
see Will Harper getting past to take P7, but down the start-finish straight now then. George Brookbasterby enjoying the tote from Will, and Andrew Whitehead enjoying the tote from George. So we've got a little bit of a train going on here with these hard tyre runners. They should all be relatively similar in terms of pace as we head through the corner there. George Brookbasterby looking to the outside a little bit there, but Willing Bliss defending nicely. Andrew Whitehead thinking about setting himself up for the outside of the next corner, but George Brookbasterby is going to try and hook it, trying to sling it around almost, but it didn't work. Unfortunately, it was a little bit brave. That put him down into fourth. Andrew Whitehead got a very nice run through there, and he takes P2 from Will, who didn't get the best exit, and he is coming up towards Andrew Whitehead under braking now. Then he's got a little bit of a toe and a little bit more speed into this corner. He takes the inside line under braking, but unfortunately he backed out of it at the very end there. Andrew Whitehead keep P2 for the moment.
Yeah, and all these time these guys are fighting, yeah, we say all the time. Battling makes you slower, so these guys battling, they started this lap about 12 seconds down from the lead of Barry Clayton, and now 14, 15 seconds down. So these guys, whilst yes, they should fight positions and get that ideal track position, the potential to put a charge onto Barry Clayton later in the race, it would seem as though it would be more beneficial to just kind of tuck in and stay tight behind it.
Small tag of the wall from Will there.
George
that will fill George with confidence as he is so close behind at this point.
Just trying to get his nose in the way. Maybe just make him think twice about where he's going to brake. It looks like they're getting really, really close with each other.
Going to be pretty much side by side on the braking there. George thinking about a move around the outside. Will it stick? Will he get a good enough exit? They're going to be pretty much wheel to wheel. George getting the slightly better exit. He creeps out in front just a little bit there. He's not set up very well for the next corner though. Will Inglis is able to take back third position. But there could be a quick switch back here, although it doesn't look like that is the case. It looks like George has conceded for a little bit, and Alex Smith is now in the picture, currently running fifth, but he could find himself in third very quickly.
Yeah, it looks as though George Brookbasterby just had a bit of a nightmare over the curbs there. It's very, very brave, and you know, as we see Barry Clayton second fastest lap, very brave of George Brookbasterby to head over on the outside.
Alex Smith got a very nice run there.
Looks like he's trying to put nose up the inside, maybe as George tries to shape up like that.
He got very untidy on over the curbs though. They are side by side, but Alex Smith, we were talking about setups before. Alex Smith, as well as Will Harper, they're running much more aggressive aero under braking there. It wasn't quite going to work, unfortunately. Alex Smith, one of those drivers running much more aggressive aero. He's about 10 kilometres an hour, or probably about 7 or 8 kilometres an hour slower down the straights than the cars around him. And we saw that come into effect there, I think. I think he would have had quite an easy overtake if he wasn't carrying that little bit extra wing.
Yeah, potentially needing the slipstream more than some of the other drivers just to kind of make advantage of the pace of the car.
George has a very nice toe on Will Inglis there, got a very nice exit, and as we head into turn 3 there, the move should be all said and done, although he might have gone a little bit deep maybe, and Alex Smith had an absolute flyer through that corner there. He's got the outside line into this corner, and George Brookbasterby overcooks it. A little bit greedy with the throttle maybe on exit. Find himself in P5 now. That P5 should be relatively safe. Steve Nice a little bit further back. That promotes Alex Smith into third all of a sudden, with Will Inglis a little bit further behind.
Yeah, really sad. Really unfortunate for George Brookbasterby there. It should be a really good battle between those three. Just mid-corner, car not behaving itself potentially a bit of a hard time. Not in its happy window. But Alex Smith making the most of the front drive. Down towards sort of bottom end of the rig as he looks as though he's going to start making a charge into the gap to Andrew Whitehead in front. About 7 seconds or so that he's got to make up to Barry Clayton. Still enjoying a 13-14 second lead on Andrew Whitehead. That lead
The gap's only getting bigger as well.
Yeah, that lead is still getting bigger.
Actually, is it? Yeah, it's shrunk a little bit now that they've stopped battling.
Yeah, I believe it looks a little bit like you know, those guys are those medium to high size. Absolutely halfway. So you should see as Barry Clayton done what Alex Smith that rear wing. I'm no error. That doesn't look as though that's
I'm not quite Adrian Newey, but that's not the best setup.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Probably had some sort of spin.
Fortunately for Will Harper as well, he's maybe having a couple of issues with the car. He's had to dive into the pits. That demotes him down into 9th and allowed a couple of other drivers to leapfrog him.
So now it's we've got 11 runners left.
Yeah, Yes, that is Rob Whitney. I believe he was having some technical issues. He's been dealing with technical issues all night, so he's done a very good job to carry on as he is. In fact, we've all been dealing with technical issues. I believe there's a couple of issues with this track mod that we're using for this very gorgeous Singapore circuit. It has flummoxed us a little bit though, unfortunately. That's why we are enjoying the interesting camera angles, why we struggle to get started. That's why a couple of drivers are having issues, unfortunately. But nonetheless, we carry on to enjoy some good racing action as we have at Singapore, as we have on so many other occasions in this championship so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks as though, as always, these races always seem to shape up with an interesting twist in the tail at the end. Those gaps coming down a bit. It's about now a second from the last lap or so. Will Fatsby looking as though he's making a charge back towards winning this. For that third place after his spin. It's going to be a bit of a kind of.
Oh dear, the curb unsettling the car a lot there, and that will draw him ever closer to the George of Steve Knight. He was making a charge on Willing Bliss, as you mentioned, Lewis, but unfortunately that's rather come to an end again.
Yeah, it just looks as though these cars are really unhappy on those apex curves. You get that, you get the car in the wrong place, the weight balance is wrong on the as you hit the curve. It just looks as though it's going to spin you around, and we've seen that a couple of times now. These drivers looking to make as much time as possible, the quickest way to go through the corner is to use those curves, but potentially it looks as though he's lost 3 seconds to that gap to Andrew Whitehead.
Are we starting to see? Yeah.
Could this be the end of the life of these medium tyres and these?
I've broken the timing system. Carry on.
And Andrew Whitehead's hard tyres starting to come back into form, and just make most of the pace that people have on those medium tyres towards the end of the race. 10.5 seconds now with 8 minutes, about 8.5 minutes to go plus a lap. That's going to be that's a big ask for Barry Clayton to keep that defence going for that long. That's really good. I think he really could struggle, and it'll be very interesting to see what comes at the end of this race.
Yes, thank you for keeping the viewers occupied, Lewis, while I enjoyed some timing system feng shui. In fact, we have to carry on with that because it's not quite working properly yet. But yes, Barry Clayton doing a very nice job there. That lead is shrinking ever so slightly though. The fuel load's getting lighter, but as you say, the tyres may be starting to dive off a little bit. So we could be on for Andrew Whitehead, I'm sure, is now maybe thinking that it could be on for 2 victories here in Singapore, and he will have done very well if he achieves that. As we see Barry Clayton heading down the straight now, trying to exercise it. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say it at least once. Exercising that 1.4 multi-air engine as much as possible as he enters the braking zone, and now to get a bit of a rest. About 10 seconds, about 11 seconds now. So maybe he's starting to turn up the pace just a little bit as we head into the final stages of the race.
Just trying to hold that lead for all it's worth. He knows, I'm sure he's sat there knowing what happened in the first race, knowing that whatever lead you have, it probably isn't going to be enough. He's going to have to really, really fight to keep that 10 seconds. If he can keep it, I reckon if he can keep it for another couple of laps, around that kind of 10 to maybe 8 or 7 second gap, he should be all right.
Yeah, I reckon at this pace, if he can keep the nose clean, he should still be on for this victory. Of course, anyone's race can be undone so quickly here, but with only a few laps to go in the race, if he's not losing a few seconds a lap, he should be comfortable, but we never know.
Yeah, those tyres are only going to get worse. I'm sure it's very, very frustrating for Barry Clayton in there. As your tyres go off, nothing seems to work. So now the car just feels as though you're driving on ice. Just that turning you had five laps ago, 2 corners ago.
Yeah, the previous lap was about a second faster. Good practice speed, trying to catch up to P4, which was set his personal best of the race. But we've just joined the helmet count to try and see is Barry starting to struggle with that car. It doesn't look too bad at the moment, to be fair, but he is about a second lap slower on track when compared to Andrew at the moment.
Yeah, maybe he's just deciding that rather than trying to drive the car at the same sort of energy, you take a bit of time out, you take a bit of a penalty in your lap time, and you save a bit of the life of tyres, perhaps saving a bit of the life of tyres for back towards the end. We could see him kind of trying to save even the slightest shred of rubber left just to kind of maybe put up a last-ditch attempt at defending that first place. Either way, I think you should be very happy with a very good race, start to complete pretty much start to finish. Again, all being well for him, but Andrew Whitehead not gaining any more after gaining about second in the last lap. He stayed at about that 9.7, 9.6 second gap.
He is on for a good lap at the moment, though. His personal best in Sector 1 for the moment.
Their best lap times are very, very close to each other, as we said. Barry Clayton's best lap time 2:12.8, Andrew Whitehead's 2:12.6. So there's not a lot of time in your best laps there for those two drivers.
There's really not, because as the fuel loads get lighter, the Barry Clayton tyres will have been pretty much done, whereas that's where Andrew's kind of come into their own. As we see Alex Smith as well also running the hard tyres, pretty much identical in terms of lapping at the moment in terms of their pace. So yeah, those hard tyres coming into their own at the end, but they might not be giving you enough advantage earlier on. The mediums might have, or rather the mediums might have just too much advantage. As we see Andrew Whitehead actually going fastest of the entire race so far, a 2:12.5. So those laps, those times really starting to come down now, but I don't think there's going to be enough time left in this race unless we see an error.
That gap down again by another second. It looks as though in the last second of the lap, Barry Clayton's some pace. It could be that that's where the time gain from Andrew Whitehead comes, but again, as Reeve said, I just don't know if it's going to be enough for Andrew Whitehead. I think Barry Clayton's done incredibly well here to keep those medium tyres going. It looks as though further down the order it's fairly kind of standard order running. There's a lot of gaps between each car, not a lot of racing happening here to win, so you might as well stick with this and closing the gap again. Another second with 3.5 minutes to go, plus that could potentially be a very, very key lap extra. For either way, it could be a key lap for Andrew Whitehead and give him more time for the 23 corners to catch up. It could be an extra lap for Barry Clayton to put the defend on, or just have to see what happens.
As we see Andrew again with another personal best. So those hard tyres working very nicely. He must be being very comfortable in this car now.
Yeah, again, lining up time this week as well. He's obviously running these speed traps and running a very similar sort of setup to the guys around him. Seeming to keep the pace as well. So there's not really anywhere that Barry Clayton has the advantage over Andrew Whitehead. It could be a case of if he does catch him in the last second, in the last minutes of this race, it'll be a bit of a sitting duck situation, unfortunately for him. As we see kind of under the bridge there, a very famous sector of the track as you go under the grandstand through a chicane and run along a little bit and another bus stop. Second chicane, pin your foot to the floor, maybe a little bit of a lift last just to kind of get the car all the way through, run it all the way down, every single bit of it, get ready for the speed ball, nail your apex and get yourself set up to turn 2 here.
As we see, yeah, the back end getting a little bit unhappy on Andrew Whitehead's car there. He must be pushing it to within an inch of his life, as you said there. And speaking of someone who is pushing it quite hard, George Brooke Battersby has done an immense job of trying to catch back up to Will Inglis at this current pace. He's been setting personal best after personal best. Will it be enough? There's only a few laps remaining in this race. He's just set another personal best there, 2:12.8. Currently running the medium, no, he's currently running the hard tyres. Correct myself there. About 4 seconds between him and Will. Again, another case of will they, won't they? Will he be able to catch up in time?
He won about 4 seconds to win on the last lap as well. He's got probably about 2 laps to go now. But quickly, this battle is the one to watch. Because also got the hard time. He's had a couple of incidents where he was back and forth and to our time just with the search for feeling. Maybe he's just struggling as this race comes towards its crescendo. But we see that gap again in front, staying very much as is on the last lap. And this gap is looking like it's going to be the closest as we get towards the end of the race. It doesn't look like it might be Alex Smith running a very good race, having a very good start and then falling towards the back end of it, and then having a very good recovery to be free taking the last couple of goals around him. Just again using next second. I don't think it's going to be enough now. As you rightly predicted,
No, it looks like this is will be our third lap to the end here, and then the next lap of this will be the penultimate. So unless he can make up around about 2.5 seconds per lap for every remaining lap of this race, it won't be enough, although the time is, as you say, coming down, much is the case for George Brooks-Battersby. Now less than 3 seconds separating these two. He can see him, he'll be in Will Inglis's rearview mirror at this point now then. Will that be his indication to put his foot down and try and keep him behind, but it will be spurring George on at the same time.
Yeah, how's Will Inglis been potentially saving a little bit of tyre life? Maybe trying to run a more dangerous, a more risky fuel strategy, trying to run a bit less fuel. Brooks-Battersby driving the wheels off this car, tries to catch up the back. He's getting very, very close now, only about 2 seconds separating.
He's had a blistering lap on this occasion, as has Will Inglis though. It looks like it's going to be his personal best lap of the race, so he has tried to respond to it, but will it be enough? Both of these guys on the hard tyres, so the car should really be some of the happiest on the grid. This could be a very nice battle indeed, both of them setting their best laps of the race.
Both of them setting their best laps of the race, as we've said, but there's still about 3 seconds between them.
That has...
Brooks-Battersby 3-second pace, a bit of a slide on exit to turn 2 there. As we see the cars getting closer and closer together. Now the key for George Brooks-Battersby here is not to make the move too quickly. He obviously wants to get past as much as possible, but if you scream up behind someone and try and throw it out the inside, that's very rare. It's a very low percentage of move. You should stay behind and try and just feel out where Will Inglis is slow and make an advantage of it there. He's got 2 laps to go, so he has got a little while to think about it.
Does, but he is getting ever closer. Of course, last time George Brooks-Battersby was involved in an on-track battle here, it went a little bit awry. The car kind of getting away from him on exit. He'll be hoping to avoid that as he gets past Will Inglis. If he does, there's about half a second separating now. Then will he think about a move this time around? No, he's a little bit further back, but he has a couple more opportunities coming up to him. The harsh left-hander as we go down the long back straight is one that he can get a really good exit out of. If he can get a good exit, he can make it can make all of the difference.
Yeah, and Will Inglis also hoping to keep this one as much as possible. It looks as though they've got fairly similar exit for that's the slipstream stick a wheel out.
You see, I believe Andrew Whitehead's had a fairly significant impact there according to our timing system, so it looks like he's able to keep with it just about. Carrying a lot of front wing damage though is Andrew Whitehead, but yes, still pretty much the status quo for George Brooks-Battersby and Will Inglis. He's thinking about a move up the inside there. Maybe if he got the better exit, it would have been a bit more secure, but it wasn't this time round.
Yeah, Will Inglis getting a not very nice exit down to this version main.
As we see, Barry Clayton, our race leader, stopped on track. Oh dear, what a shame for Barry. Is he able to get going quick enough? He's not. Andrew Whitehead on the final lap, turn 1, takes P1. As Barry Clayton looks like he got it maybe locked up the brakes or something, but he takes P1 from Barry Clayton on the final lap. We'll try and stick with that to see if that swaps around again, but these two are pretty much side by side heading into turn 1 themselves. George Brooks-Battersby trying to hook it around the outside. Some interesting track limits there. He might get away with it though as we head through turn 2. Then Will Inglis is able to box him off.
Yeah, he'll have to concede a little bit of time there. Unfortunately, he can't get away with keeping on that bit of bit as he gets it very wrong and breaking tags.
Oh dear, they've come together. They have come together and they have both spun. It's like a synchronised swimming almost between these two. That's allowed Alex Smith to catch up a little bit, although it doesn't look like it will be enough. See, Barry Clayton's also had a bit of these two come together as well as we rejoin them. I saw Barry Clayton's car being a little bit unhappy there, but I was too busy focusing on these two, George Brooks-Battersby and Will Inglis, on the timing system. Luckily, it didn't really affect them too badly in the end. Yeah, about a second separating these two. The battle for the lead on the final lap as we get ready to enter Sector 3 now. Then they're going to be pretty much side by side as we head towards the sharp left-hander there, the hairpin. Who's going to get the better exit? That will make all the difference here. As we see Barry Clayton getting it a little bit wrong, a little bit over-exuberant on the throttle, trying to get down the straight as quickly as possible. Might have been his undoing there. There's still less than half a second separating them though.
Still looks as though he got a very good exit there, although with that slide it would have compromised him a little bit. He still gained a little bit of time down into that one at the end of the straight there. Again, he could be getting a very interesting last couple of corners. Andrew Whitehead
too deep.
Huge slide there.
Too deep. Barry Clayton takes back the lead.
Andrew Whitehead trying to get to the inside of the track and defend that line. Barry Clayton just taking advantage of that, hanging it around the outside and making the most of the the sliding slow and right as he now has just got to make that Alfa as wide as he can, make it as big as across the back as he possibly can as he comes in towards the last
And I
section.
think it's going to be too little too late for Andrew Whitehead, unfortunately. Barry Clayton, an immense drive there. It looked like it had all come undone, but with an amazing move at the final part of the race, Barry Clayton crosses the line to take home first position. Andrew Whitehead, commiserations there, taking home second, very close behind. It looked so hopeful for him for such a short while, but it was never to be, unfortunately. Alex Smith has had a very nice recovery as he comes down the start-finish straight to take home P3.
Managing to hold Brabants with kind of 4th and 5th place. A really interesting end to the race there. Some very good battles right as the race comes to
celebratory donuts, we'll say. That is.
But Barry Clayton, hats off to Barry Clayton there, making the most of his tyres early on and just enough to hold off Andrew Whitehead as the race comes towards its end. I'm not sure if there was any contact there. We might have to go and see about that afterwards, but it looked as though there were a number of incidents made by the drivers on the last lap there, just maybe getting a little bit too excited about the fact that they were about to finish first and then both of them dropping it potentially. It's a bit of a multi-story.
Yeah, they have come to the end of their race there, and they've decided to celebrate with a small bit of dodgem cars. As we see Steve Knight crossing the line to take home P6, and John Baker, again after some amazing defensive driving there, taking home P7. So that was an exciting end to the racing here at Singapore. The racing that didn't look like it was going to happen at one point. I'm very glad that it did. It was certainly, as you can come to expect from Singapore, very interesting. And we will be joining you, hopefully, in a fortnight's time for some more Formula Alpha action. In between that, we'll be enjoying, again, hopefully, some touring car racing as well. So, from me, it is all for tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, for coming out and watching. Some really good racing towards the end. So glad we managed to get
And so that will be it from us until next